Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Kemper, psychic medium.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cathy Metry. I'm a psychic intuitive, and welcome to Scorpio Rising. Guys, today we have an amazing guest. I'm so excited. It's such an honor to have her with us. And Heidi and I have really worked hard to just get her on the show, and you're going to love her. So, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about our guest, Ellen Goldberg. And before I start, I'm just going to give you a little tidbit. What if I told you your hand is a universal language and tells a story about your talents, relationships, health, and self-discovery, and inspires your truth and your divine growth? Wouldn't we all love to empower ourselves to make better choices and decisions, embrace a positive mindset, and develop our intuition and to walk a fulfilling life path? Well, our special guest today is Ellen Goldberg, and Ellen has dedicated her life to the study and practice of this work. She has been a leader in these sciences for over 40 years. Ellen is the author of the book, The Art and Science of Handreading. And in her book, you will learn all about this practice and how to learn classic methods of self-discovery. Ellen is the author of the book, The Art and Science of Handreading. Here it is, and I read it. And guys, it is the best book I have ever read. So let's learn from Ellen. And I'd like to welcome Ellen Goldberg. Welcome, Ellen.
Hi, Ellen. So excited to have you. So nice to meet you. I'm Heidi.
I'm delighted to meet you, Heidi, and I'm happy to meet you also, Cathy.
Thank you. So, Ellen, I read your book. I just can't tell you. It's amazing. This had to have been a labor of love for you.
Oh, indeed.
And I can only imagine all of the history and the practice and the study that went into this. And so I know Heidi has some questions just to go back into the history of how you got started out. And she's been dying. No, we poured over this book yesterday. And it was like we were two kids in a candy store. So, Heidi.
I know. And the shape of the book is like a textbook per se. So I said to Cathy, why couldn't we have classes like this in college? These are the kind of classes that I would show up to, right?
I wanted to offer it in a high school astrology. I thought, wouldn't that be a great thing to?
Oh, he's so great.
That would. Ellen, I just would love to hear about your background as far as it comes to spirituality, if you have any religious affiliation, and really just to ask where this started, where your interest in this area started, and when you yourself started to practice all of this.
Well, I'll answer some of that because I can't remember everything you asked. I'll tell you some things about how I got started. I could have just been a happy suburban housewife, but it was not going to let me do that. In fact, I've never married and I've never had children. And for a long time now, I'm almost 80. I'll be 80 on my next birthday. I have had a very adventurous life. I feel very fortunate. And when I moved out of the family home, I stayed a long time because they needed me. And I finally left home for good when I was 24. And I moved into Manhattan. I didn't know anybody. And those first 6 months, those first half a year was so lonely. And so I needed to give myself things. And I thought, well, I'll take some classes. I've always been interested in classes. And so I thought I would take a class in the tarot. And I found a little school called Inner Vision. They don't exist, I believe, anymore. It's a long time ago. But they had a policy there that they would always choose a student from every class to be the assistant to the teacher when the class was given next. And this way the student learned, had to take it again, had to teach a few classes as in student teaching, which I did.
Right.
And it was really quite a wonderful thing. And what happened was I was being a social worker then. I had graduated college and I knew I was going to go on for a master's, but I was on a little break. And what happened? The teacher in the palmistry class became ill and I had to take the class. Yes, the teacher said she couldn't do it. And they were, in fact, moving 100 miles away for her to get what she needed. And suddenly I was the teacher. And I was so upset because I thought palmistry was my worst subject. And I loved tarot. And I remember the head of the school when I kind of fought and said, oh, please put me with the tarot teacher. You know, tarot is my real subject. She said, yes, but you'll always do tarot because you love it. If I don't put you with the palmistry teacher, you're in danger of giving it up. So she said, oh, it's palmistry or nothing. She was a very strong-minded woman. And so I became the assistant to the palmistry teacher. And then the palmistry teacher, about a month into the course, moved 100 miles away. And suddenly I was the teacher. Well, I have to say, I got myself fired without cause from my social work job. And they gave me unemployment insurance for a whole year to a year and a half. And I just did nothing but make lessons. And I became a scholar. I became a palmistry scholar. And that's what I did.
What is your birthday? What is your sign?
I am in Aries. I am the first degree of the first sign of the zodiac. I'm born March 22, 1945. And that's it. I'm in Aries. And us Aries, we love being in Aries.
Yes.
I'm a Cancer.
Oh, Cancer, the sweetest sign of the zodiac.
Thank you.
And I'm a Gemini. And then, of course, Cathy and I are both Scorpio Rising. So that's where that comes from.
That's perfect. Well, that Scorpio Rising will allow you to make your way in the world. And if anything comes, you just give them a little sting and they'll run.
Right. So, Ellen, we talked a lot about the development of intuition. And I think that the tarot and palmistry and I couldn't believe really the correlation of your hand being a map of life. And then, I look at the tarot, right, as well. And I want to talk a little bit more about how it maps out your life, but also the tarot from an artistry standpoint. And I want to ask you if this is correct. When I do my readings, and after years and years and years, I always am finding some symbol in the artwork of whatever, tarot deck that I am reading that is triggering an intuitive thought or channeling or such. And, for me, that's what I look at it as an art form, as, a dream analysis, so to speak, that just like your dreams, you have symbols and they give you a repetition of certain things that are coming in your life or not coming in your life, or warnings. Would you say that there's similarities in all three of those modalities, palmistry, dreams, tarot?
Oh, absolutely. There is a similarity. And also astrology. All of these things are here to help us to think, especially I love all of them and I do all of them because once you start studying one, it becomes so interesting to do the next and see how things fit together.
Yes.
Right. And once you start to have a familiarity with them, it's only the most natural thing in the world that you start to see how they're connected and how they will say, fascinatingly, the same message. If it's an important message, the universe will make sure that the hand says it, that the cards say it, that the astrology will say it. All of these things will give you the message so that you cannot miss it. And that's why we like to call the hand God's roadmap, because everything in this, when we go shopping, everything comes with some instructions.
Right.
Tells us, you do this, you don't do that. We're no different. These are the operating instructions, right?
Right. What I find fascinating is how they all connect, they all overlap. And what's interesting for me, I can just speak to my experience. I started off with tarot and astrology, but like any normal Gemini, I wanted a little bit of everything.
More, of course.
What else can I learn? Bring it. So for me, it was, tarot, it was astrology. And then that went right to, after, past, when you pass, what the afterlife is like. Then I started doing reincarnation, and then I just learned a little bit about everything. And so here I am 30 years later, almost 30 years later, after when I kind of started getting into it all, going back to astrology, going back to tarot, because that's where I started, but I never felt like I mastered it. So now I'm going back and wanting to become a master at it. And so I just love how it all builds on each other. But like any Gemini, I just got a little piece here and there. So I appreciate that you're an expert in all these areas, because, we need experts to lead us. So,
and we need to be able to see how they say the same thing in their own way. It's one of the most thrilling things to me is that the universe actually knows each one of us, and it cares, because when you see how things are written on our body, in the hand, in the iris of the eye, oh my God, people who read the irises, it's just too much information to deal with.
I want to learn that. I have a friend who reads faces.
Oh, yes. Everything speaks. Pythagoras said that. He said, amazing. He said, everything is intelligent and everything speaks. Everything wants to reflect us back to ourselves. And if we learn to read the signs or the symbols that any particular thing has, even the way plants grow, the way a flower looks, everything is telling us something about how to have a better life.
It just makes logical sense. Okay. So a doctor, a physician, they are studying every part of the human body, right? To outline and to know how to do surgical procedures, to understand where the vulnerabilities are from a health standpoint, or let's take it to medicine, etc. And guess what, guys? We all have our own fingerprint, and it's different from any other human on the planet. Like, wake up.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't it? To me, it's so many things inspire awe in me, and to think how specific the universe can be about each being that comes into existence. When you put together the uniqueness of our hands, of our astrology, of our personalities, of what's written in our eyes and on the bottoms of our feet, everything is speaking and wanting to contribute to our experience of life.
But the other piece to that, all of those different tools of divination, all of those can be used in conjunction with our intuition, right? So
yes, and the more
it all goes.
It's true. And one of the finest things that any person can learn, and what I always taught in my classes, no matter what class I taught, was how to be still, go inside, and listen for the inner voice. And sometimes that inner voice has different names. And one of my favorite ways to think of it is the being with 1,000 names. That higher self will speak to us and comment on just about anything if we learn to tune our inner ear.
Yeah, fascinating.
You know, you said something the other day when I was talking to you, and you talked about intuition being your inner teacher, right? And I mean, and then you said something about
inner tutor in tuition. Tuition is, as one of my teachers once said, intuition is tuition you pay yourself.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Love that.
And if you were to say to somebody, how do you get there? How do you listen? How do you learn to listen? How do you learn to honor your intuition? How would you say, what is the first step?
The first step is to learn to meditate, to learn how to be quiet and how to quiet the thinking. You know, a very nice experiment that only takes about 10 seconds is to think the thought for, I wonder what I'm going to think next. I wonder what I'm going to think next. And think it and then watch. Because there will be a little pause before you have a thought. And you will get to see what it is like to be conscious without thinking, without it being occupied by thought.
Yeah, I'm sitting here doing that right now as you were saying it, and I was like, whoa.
Yes.
So say it one more time. Say it one more time.
It's just a little trick I learned along.
I like it. I like it
too. And it's say to yourself, I wonder what I'm going to think next. And then watch. And because the mind really does not love to be watched, it will just quiet down for a moment or two. And you get to see what consciousness is like without thought.
That was amazing. Thank you for that. Oh my goodness. That is life-changing for me. Seriously.
That's why I joke to myself. That's why they call it meditation practice, because you're never perfect at it. You have to practice. It's always practicing. And we have to be willing to bring ourselves back to that quiet state over and over. The most important thing is self-kindness. And if with gentleness you sit and you quiet the mind, and then it starts thinking. No big deal. Just bring it back. And if 2 moments later, it's going to start thinking again. Our job is to be very gentle with ourselves, not to mind that it starts thinking, because that's its nature, and just bring it back. And we'll get spaces, longer and longer spaces of that exquisite emptiness.
Wow. You know, it almost feels like this is also a wonderful tool and thought process to allow your emotions and your mental and your spiritual and your physical existence to operate together and without one overpowering the other. I mean,
that's like just being a human being, just being, because they don't call us human doings. They call us human beings, and how to just be.
You said something about our subconscious and our conscious minds, and how we can balance the two and almost come above. So you're actually working both of them from a separate level. We talked a little bit about that, and I thought it was so interesting. Can you share?
Well, let me think what I might say. For one thing, is they're both always in operation. And we get to choose where our focus goes. And that's a very important aspect of this. And if we want to activate the subconscious, because even though it's doing its thing night and day, but if we want to be consciously aware of it, then we need to be able to tune in another way by sitting quietly and listening, because that word intuition has the word tutor in it. It means inner teaching. It means each of us has an inner teacher. So the most important thing is to start to learn how to listen for the voice, because there is a voice. And I think the easiest way was for me, because I am not a big natural psychic by any means, was to write to myself. I have so many notebooks and journals, but I'll start at Dear Higher Self. And you can write Dear Inner Teacher, Dear Intuition, whatever you like. But I write Dear Higher Self, being right. What it is in names. Please tell me what I need to know about such and such in order to teach it tonight. Or please let me know in my conversation with, say, Heidi and Cathy, what would be the most important point for me to bring forth. And the important thing for me is after I write the question, and then I write, Dear Ellen, just as though I am receiving a communication. And without judging, I start to write what I begin to hear or think. Sometimes it will sound like a voice, like something like your own voice, but a little more resonant. Sometimes it's just your thinking. Capture it, put it on paper. Don't read it till you're all done writing, and then you read it over. And it's amazing the things that you will teach yourself from your own interior.
Wow. I just had a conversation with a friend yesterday. Yesterday was a wonderful day for me. We had a lot of healing conversations. And I was talking to a friend and I said, I really feel like I really connected with my higher self today. So I was just saying that yesterday. So I love how you're talking about this now, because it's just confirmation that I very much was really in tune with my higher self yesterday. And it's gone all into today. And I felt a little shift when I woke up and I saw the condition of my home and the fact that I needed a little bit of help cleaning up. And my higher self stepped away for a minute and was like, where are those kids? My 16-year-old and my 21-year-old. Hey guys, why don't you come on down and help your mom get this house cleaned up? So I think I just love how we're just tying it all in. It's just confirmation that we all have that ability. I love that. I love that. I've never referred to it as that, but that's exactly what it is. It ties it all together.
Yes, and how wonderful that we can use it for the most esoteric aspects of our lives and the practicality of how am I going to clean the living room.
Right.
Right.
Yes, it's available for everything that we do.
That's right. One of your quotes in your book, I loved. I'm just digressing a little bit, and we can come back. Was from our very own Henry Ford, and I actually lived. I bought the cottage of Etzel Ford on the estate, and I lived there for 10 years. It was like a little Snow White castle, right? No, but much. It wasn't even a castle. It was like a cottage, right?
Oh, if you have any photos of it, just send me one or two. I would love to see it.
So just for the viewers, just for a background for the viewers, sorry to interrupt, Cathy, but I just was going to tell the history that we're from Detroit, Michigan. That's where Cathy and I are based.
That was my next,
Yeah.
And so, being from Detroit, and just seeing this quote in your book, I thought it was great. And especially with talking about the power of your mind and the power of your
sports quote, whether you think you can.
I'm going to say it. And it's so great. And his quote is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yep.
That was a fabulous thing to say, wasn't it? I agree.
Yeah. It sums it up. So
and
simple.
It really does. And this is also the absolute urgency and the importance for women and men, and even, our youth, to understand that what you're thinking can result. How you think is going to determine your life and your successes.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And so this quote just embodied that. And I couldn't believe that our very own Detroiter, Henry Ford, when I read this, I had never read that before. And it was great.
A few great pieces of advice from wise people can set us on a much better path in life. And that is one of them.
Right. It's only like 2 sentences. Right. And then there was, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about this because I want to say it's his name, Cheerio. He was the read Mark Twain's palm. And
he read Mark Twain's palms.
Yes. And I might be saying it the wrong way, but when he had his palm read, his quote was that Cheerio had exposed to, how do I say it?
Oh, he had shown me more than I even wanted to know. That he was so right. I didn't, but he was like, it was enough.
Yes. He said it was humbly humiliating. Right?
Yeah.
But honestly, the only way to grow is really, if you're an intuitive, the only way to grow is for an intuitive to just dive right in and say, look, here, and you have to be an intuitive to do that, is let me just grab that fear. Let me just grab what I'm seeing and show you. And it's like looking in a mirror. And when people look in the mirror, they can see what they have to do.
And that goes back to the subconscious thoughts, right? And go ahead. No, please go ahead.
There was an old book on palmistry, just because of what you said about the mirror. That's title was Your Palm, Your Mirror.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm sure somewhere, if you Google around, you get an old copy of it. And because it is not true that the universe drops us here to have a life without any guidance. It has given us so much guidance.
Mm-hmm.
The hand is amazing at what it will tell you about yourself. And part of the magic of life is that, of course, it will tell what's going on now and who you are. That's its main task, is to reflect you back to yourself so that you can know yourself and therefore choose things and a path in life and work that will be really satisfying to who you are, your inner self. But along with that, it will even tell you some things about your future. And that goes into the realm of the magical, and that life is a magical occurrence. It's a miracle.
Yes. I loved in the book, which I never knew, that I always wondered, which palm are you supposed to read, the right or the left? and I learned that it's the dominant hand that you should read. That is your current life, is the dominant hand. And the recessive hand is basically your entire life.
Or the qualities given at birth is how I like to think of it.
Okay.
Dominant hand, and it's, the right for a right-handed person, the left for a left-handed person. And for someone who's ambidextrous, well, you're going to have to do a lot of extra work and ask and find out. And I have my own little methods of questions, but we're not going to totally go into that now because most people are one or the other, or slightly. But if they are ambidextrous, one thing I would say, you ask which hand they write with, and that you would use for the headline because that's more mental.
Right.
However, both hands give important information. The recessive hand is qualities given at birth. It doesn't change very much. And the dominant hand, whichever it is, changes whenever you change. So by reading both, you see where people are coming from and who they are now.
Right.
Wow.
I love that. Cathy and I were doing each other's hands. We were analyzing each other's hands yesterday. And it was cool because I'm a lefty, she's a righty. So we did a little bit of that, and we were getting a little, wait, hold on, we're talking left, no, right. But it was fascinating. And it looked like for me, both my palms, the mound that's the most dominant for me is on both of underneath my thumb, which is the lover. It said in the book.
The mount of Venus, the big ball of the thumb that is so round and full. And that's a beautiful mount to have as a leading mount. Every one of them is fascinating because there are 7 mounts in the hand, Jupiter, Saturn, Apollo, and Mercury. Mars is the whole band across, and then Venus and the moon. And there are so many ways to tell which ones are dominant. And I go into that in pretty much detail in the book. And to find it and to see the primal patterns, the archetypes that have gone into making you and help you to feel not only that you get to know yourself more, but to see that you're part of a huge archetypal patterns that the universe presents over and over, and that these 7 types and their many combinations, it's like you have a good ingredient, like say you have some tofu, which could be somewhat bland, and you decide you're going to make it Oriental, or you're going to give it Italian seasoning or Greek seasoning. By the extra seasoning, you take that basic material and you make it something special. And with our personalities, we've been given so many wonderful things to be able to enhance it. And the hand, it's already, as it is now, shows what is making you up.
Mm-hmm. That's so great. It's, again, I mean, I just have to say it makes so much sense. And not only that, but when you talk about the mounds, we have, and I had Jupiter and Apollo in both hands.
Yes, hers were the same. Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know.
And if you go look up in my book, you will see that I do for each of those mounts, mount combinations to see, is that like when those two come together or these two come together? And there is something on every one of them.
It's so great.
So fascinating.
It's an education that it just makes sense. It's really also embracing every ounce of what your body can do, what your mind can do, what your body says, what the universe says. I mean, we are all connected. We're all connected. And
yes, not only are we all connected, but we're all given this marvelous information, and that connects us. The universe, and the being with 1,000 names, that divine mind, it actually knows each one of us, and cares about each one of us and arranges all kinds of interesting things for every single one of us to experience on our soul's journey.
Wow.
And that's why you will see on the hand times already written in advance of great smoothness when you just dig in and do your work or whatever it is that you're interested in achieving. Then you see some which are broken up and you know, oh, this is why I'm going to have to treat this part of my life as an adventure, because every single line has a timeline on it. And when you see a mark or something on one of the lines, you can see what time it is. And I give time maps for every one of the lines in my book.
Wow. Wow.
I can't wait to read more of it. I'm so excited.
That's right. Oh, and wait till you see the hands of all your friends and family.
I know.
I love it.
I just love to add to my repertoire,
And Ellen, I know you're writing another book.
Yes,
and I
tarot.
Can you talk about it? Because it's so amazing.
It's so exciting to me. And in fact, I just got a little extension on it. So I'm pleased by it. I hope to get it in within the next month and a half to the publishers. It's the same fine publisher, Inner Traditions. And, well, the tarot is another form of the magic of life. I love knowing how life is both practical and magical. And it's amazing that you can use these cards. And if you mix them with sincerity, and if you have good meanings for them, and and you stay with the meanings you have so that the cards know what your reference point is, they will arrange themselves so that when you look at them, and just even looking at them, the pictures are there to make you think. They stimulate your thoughts. And when you see them together, you say, oh, that's a very upsetting, or that looks great.
Ellen, I have a question about tarot. What deck did you learn on? And what is your favorite deck? Or do you have a lot of favorite decks?
Good question, because the deck I learned on is my favorite deck to read on. I know many beautiful decks and how many I have in the closet, but I only read with one.
Yep.
Very basic, the very plain Rider-Waite Smith deck. Publisher Rider, and then Waite and Smith did the cards. Although Pamela Smith, she was a psychic artist, and she just brought through those pictures. They're so exquisite. Even Waite did not fully get it because she was channeling when she drew those cards.
I learned on the same deck. Ellen. And my current favorite, thanks to Cathy, my dear friend, she got me a Scapini deck, and that's her favorite. Well, I think it's one of her favorites, but she got me the gift of that, and I've been reading that now. It's just such a beautiful deck.
Oh, tell me the name of it. I missed that.
It is the medieval Scapini deck.
Yes, it is a wonderful deck.
The artwork is unbelievable, and it doesn't really digress too much from the Rider-Waite. Really
the Smith's drawings as their touchstone.
Yes, it is. And it's just has a little more abundance in some of the artwork, but the same foundation. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But one of the things that is written about so often, and then there's a lot of tarot decks that strictly focus on the major arcana, and you can find tons of books about the major arcana, but not a lot of books about the minor arcana.
Lucky me, because mine is coming soon, and that's what it is. It's on the minor arcana.
Love it.
And that's exactly, I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
I'm so excited. Oh, I wish it was close by. I'd pick it up and show you I just had it printed up for myself and bound in spiral just so that I could see it in one place. And it's a big book already. So I'm so pleased. I'm so excited that I get to give this to our esoteric community. It's just,
do you think that the minor arcana are really the influence, the energy? I mean, we're 99% energy. And having said that, and that is why when I have people that are putting their energies into the cards, right? Mm-hmm. The cards are energy too. Of course, they're operating together, and it makes perfect sense. But in the readings, a lot of times I will read the cups and the wands and the swords. And of course, I read the cups as emotional influences and energies that are affecting everything, the emotional, and then the mental, and different from the minor arcana, which some people are destiny cards and etc.
Some people are what? Say that again, please.
Some reading the major arcana, right? A lot of people think that this is a destiny card. And I feel that, and you can tell me what you think, that the minor arcana really affects the major arcana before that materializes. What do you think?
Oh, I hadn't thought of it in that way, but I think of the minor arcana as the major arcana, which are the great overarching principles that make up the world. Each one of them has a whole philosophical and energetic feel to it. And the minor arcana, I say they are the major arcana brought down to earth into the events of everyday life.
Okay.
I can't wait to read this book.
Oh, thank you. It's going to be so much fun to have something big and exciting to give to the world. And at 80. So,
oh my gosh.
Wonderful.
Oh, how good life can be if you keep yourself interested and full of curiosity and creative.
And I have one more question, because Heidi asked this question. I know and I don't want to forget about it.
I'm dying to ask a question, so don't let me forget.
Let's see if it was the same. Who is your mentor?
Oh, my mentor. Well, I haven't had a mentor in years. But when I first got started, I went to a school called the School of Mystical Sciences. I was in a class at the Inner School, the first school that I had found, and it wasn't being that fulfilling. And the person sitting next to me, a stranger, I was looked at him, and he looked at me and he said, "I don't worry about this lecture because I'm going to a school that really knows." Going to a school. And he told me about a school on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. All these things are long gone now, but it was like I couldn't wait. And the teacher there, his name was Charles Blaisdell. And he was the most amazing meditator. That man could meditate and bring things through, channel it through. And that's where I learned my tarot. They didn't teach palmistry at that school. That was a whole separate study of mine. But I learned tarot there. They did tarot and Kabbalah, everything based on tarot and Kabbalah. And I spent 4 years at that school. We did theater, we danced, we did everything together. We sang together and put up on slides big tarot cards that would embody the song. I was very
wow.
Go to the special, these little mystery schools, they appear and then they're gone. Depends,
right.
What happens to the teacher. All those people are gone now. But I got to spend 4 years there. And during that time, that's what gave me my basis. And then of course, the fact that I never stopped studying and learning. But the best thing I learned there was how to hear the inner voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Ellen, I just have one last question for you. Sorry about that. My light's going in and out. I have one last question for you, and I wish we could talk more, but I know time, we could talk all day, but we do have to have a limit. My question for you is, I'm 49 and don't have a tattoo. And of course my kids are already talking about when they're 18, they can't wait. They know what tattoo they're going to get. And I'm just like, okay. It's so funny because I have been obsessed now for about a year and a half. I know I'm going to get a tattoo. I've been trying to think, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And still haven't decided. But what I think is really cool is the question, if you had to get a tattoo, which I don't know, maybe you have one, I'm not sure.
Oh,
I'm guessing no. I'm guessing no because of just the generation. But if you got a tattoo of a tarot card, which one would you get?
If I were to get a tattoo, not that I really care about one, but two things that occurred to me that I love would be the sun, because I'm in Aries and the sun is exalted in Aries, and
Yes.
and it is the source of life. So I might put a little sun somewhere on me, maybe in the small of my back, or I might get a snake or a serpent, because that has so much life force in it and has to do with occult learning and wisdom and flexibility and transformation. So maybe one of those, or maybe both.
I love it. I love it. Cathy, what about you? What would you get?
Well, I have been going back and forth. Of course, I was raised in a very conservatively traditional family with a Lebanese father and a French mother.
Yes.
And now I want one, right? So I was thinking of getting a Luna moth. And yes. And
but for a tarot, if you had to pick one from the tarot.
Oh, well, I'm a moon child, right? So I just may do the moon.
I love
probably the moon.
Yeah, love that.
It illuminates.
For me, I would do the Lover's card. That's my favorite.
Oh, you would put it right on you. Where would you put it?
I think like my rib cage, like right underneath a woman's breast, right there in the rib cage. I think that's like the most beautiful place on the body. So that's where I would want to get it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I love it.
Well,
I love it.
Well, Ellen, it's been great having you. Cathy was so excited when she got a hold of you. I know you are hard to get a hold of, and we just believe in divine timing, and we believe in the universe bringing us who we're supposed to interview and who we're supposed to connect with. And I'm just so grateful, Cathy, for you getting a hold of her and establishing a wonderful connection. Ellen, you're amazing. I'm so honored to have had you on our show. And I love that you're in Manhattan. I know I have lived past lives there. My most recent one in the early 1920s.
I live in West Village, Manhattan, which is just the best place, just near Washington Square Park. And
wow. When Cathy and I come and visit.
Oh, when you come up to Woodstock, I'm spending most of my time between Woodstock and Puerto Rico now. I live there. I was the former director of a wonderful holistic raw foods institute in Puerto Rico. We're right on the water on the Western Shore, the Ann Whitney Natural Health Institute. And I'm still on the board of directors, but
I love it.
A lot of healing goes on there.
Can we interview you when your book comes out?
Oh, it would be my pleasure. I would love to.
Yes.
We'll have to keep in touch. Let's just send a few little emails back and forth and keep in touch, because that book is going into the publishers within the next month or two for sure. I've got all the extensions I can, and it's really done, but I want to polish it because, once I heard a story about one of the famous painters, and what he did was he went to people bought his paintings. He went to somebody's house and started working on one of his paintings that had already been bought, right while it was hanging on their wall, fixing something that he thought could be better. And it's like, okay, when we write a book, we just have to give it and say, there's no going and fixing it up. So I love that we can take the time, learn something, and share it with the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ellen.
Thanks, Ellen.
It's been a pleasure to speak with you. I'd be happy.
I am going to call you after because I want to show you some of these absolutely beautiful mythological treasures.
Oh, thank you. I would love it.
Okay.
Okay.
And big hug, big kiss. And I guess I'll talk to you later tonight. Okay.
All right. And everybody else, we'll see you next time on Scorpio Rising. Thanks for tuning in.
And make sure to click the subscribe button. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye then.
Bye-bye.